Hello, everyone. My name is Aishah Hunter, and I am the Membership Director for BWIN, Business Women Inspirational Network. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, whether it's live or on the replay for Winning Wednesdays. This month, Pastor Mary Pitts, CEO and founder of BWIN, and I are hosting these Winning Wednesday sessions to make sure that we can share words of encouragement and empowerment for our organization and for women that are looking to build a community and talk about the work that they do. And so I want to open up tonight's conversation just with a little bit more about BWIN, and then we'll segue into our topic for tonight. And so again, tonight we are talking about unlocking the power within as part of our Winning Wednesday series. And so first what I want to share is that BWIN is really founded on three important principles, which is inspiration, motivation, and sisterhood. And we are a thriving global network of women who are ready to create real connections and build true relationships. And so if you think about different organizations you may be in, you may have networked a little bit differently pre-COVID, but our goal is that through BWIN, you can network with women who are looking to grow in their aspects of their career and in their spirituality, and where they have the opportunity to talk about that and bring their whole selves into the conversation. And so as you think about that as one of the key pieces of our membership organization, which our doors are opening for membership here in just a few weeks on March 20th, we're really looking to help continue to create spaces where women can have these conversations, be sown into, and be able to grow both personally and professionally. And so one of the areas that I personally have had to do a lot of work on is about unlocking the power from within, and specifically where that has shown up for me as a HR leader and also as an entrepreneur has been learning how to understand what power I have that comes from God and not the power because of the position that I'm in. And so when you think about unlocking the power from within, specifically as it relates to your career growth and development, I think about unlocking the power not of your position in the organization or even in your company or title you possess, but unlocking the power of where God has positioned you. So for many women, myself included, I have always heard the phrase that women wear a lot of hats. Sometimes it's the hat of entrepreneur, sometimes it's mother, sometimes it's wife, sometimes it's leader. It could be many different hats in your specific life. But when I used to hear that phrase, what really started to become challenging for me was understanding that although I may show up in many different spaces, that doesn't mean that what God has called me to needs to look different. And so tonight's message is really about showing up as the woman that God has created you to be and how to do that no matter what setting you're in. And so, one of the things as it relates to work that I think a lot about is, I grew up a lot with the idea that, you shouldn't bring religion into work or into the workplace. And that seed was planted very early in my life that, you don't talk about politics and you don't talk about religion. You don't talk about those things at work. That as someone who believes in Jesus and the power of Jesus, it has really been hard for me to think about operating differently outside of who I am in Christ, because I am with Christ in all things that I do. And when I think about how that statement or phrase has impacted people, I think about how challenging it must be if we continue to drive people to believe that in order to be, all of who they are, all that they're called to be, it's relative to the position they're in at that moment versus understanding what they're meant to grow from, learn from, or to do for God based on where they are at that moment. And I think that if we can really take the time to think about, why has God placed me where I am, we can unlock some of the things that God has asked us to do right where we're planted. And I believe that that has a really strong impact on things like engagement at work. And I'll share a little bit about that. So as somebody who, feels like I have a really clear understanding of what God wants me to do, there have been a lot of times in my professional life where I have been so anxious to get to what is currently a side hustle that I want to be, a full-time business, that I feel like, man, I'm wasting time on where I'm at right now. And there was a season in my life where I really struggled with that specifically. And I remember thinking, well, if I could just get out of this job, if I could just move over here, or if I could just quit tomorrow where I'm at today, I could be doing God's work. And I had somebody that I was in a group with, and she's sewed into me, and she said, Aishah, I really want you to think about, if God still has you in that workplace, what he wants you to accomplish. And that was a really important moment for me, because I had become so consumed with thinking about, I got to get through this, I got to get over here, I've got to get hustling, I've got to go to this next job or move and pivot in these places, that I had forgotten about the power that God had placed inside of me right where I was. And when I think about engagement at work, how many people might be feeling similar to that, and how that might impact someone's ability to feel like they can be their whole selves at work. And so one of the things that I think is super interesting. So if you think about keeping religion out of work, or, making your calling being something separate than the job that you might be in the moment, it's not surprising to me that in a recent poll by Gallup on the state of the global workplace, that 85% of people worldwide say that they're not engaged in the workplace. And that's around the globe. And so that means that only 15% of people believe that they come to work and that they are engaged and fulfilled. And that really got me thinking how unfortunate it is that we all have been planted here by God in whatever positions we're in to do his work, and yet might feel unsatisfied or disengaged because we don't think that we're doing the work that he wants us to work on. Where all along, I hold the belief that every experience that God has placed us in is both for our growth benefit as well as to do the work of the kingdom. And so even though in the workplace you're in, or the job you're in at the moment, you may not be able to speak on your beliefs directly, but that doesn't mean that you can't live them out. And so, I want to encourage you that if you're in that state right now where maybe you're not where you want to be, or even where God is taking you to, that right where you are, there's an assignment that God has for you. And that's the power of what to unlock them within, is that no matter where you are, if you choose to allow God to use you, he will. It's all about our ability to unlock the things that he has on the inside of us. And our proximity to the position we believe we should be in should not take us out of recognizing what we can do in that moment. And so one of the things, I think about a ton is, how would the definition of work change if you asked yourself, whose work are you doing? I'm going to say that again. How would your definition of work change if you asked yourself, whose work are you doing? And so many times it's easy to get swept up in wanting to be in the next place, but what about the place right now? I found that I was trying so hard to move where I was and focused on that I'd forgotten why I was here in the first place. And so, I remember and have continued to be reminded that not every position I'm in is about me. And I think sometimes that's really hard, right? We are excited because we are ourselves, and it's really easy to say, like, this is about me. This is about my job and my to-do list and, what I want to do. But at the end of the day, this position that I'm in was a gift from God. And I've really tried to think about, instead of saying, do I have to go to this job, or I'm here right now, that, wow, God, I get to go to this workplace. I get to show up and be the light in the place that I'm in, no matter what it is or for how long it's going to be. And so, don't get me wrong, God is always working on us so that we can be more like Him. But while that's going on, you're also being positioned to be His light. And so that might come in many different forms. That might come from a moment where God shares that you need to pray for somebody, or, what can change when we begin to pray over our workplaces. But when we can shift our thinking in that way to think about the power that is within us, because we've been planted as lights in the world, it really has the ability to transform where we're at and also transform our perspective so that we can be used, so that God can allow us to do the work. Because ministry, if I've learned anything from Pastor Mary, it's that she always has taught me and continues to teach me that ministry is everywhere that you go. It's no matter what you're doing, you have the potential to sow into people if you allow yourself to be utilized. And so when I think about unlocking the power within, I think about how much more abundant we can be when we think about not tying power to positions or titles or that place on your check off my life bucket list, but really that power comes from acknowledging that you have and that you are everything that God wants you to be, if you allow yourself to be His expression. And so, I used to walk into rooms with an awareness that I had all these hats, and I was Aishah the HR, and Aishah the life coach, and Aishah the mom, and Aishah the pageant girl, and all these different versions of Aishah, which was really stressful because I felt like, oh my gosh, am I being, 100% me? But it wasn't until I made this shift to understand that I am the same me no matter where I go, but how you get to experience the expression of me in those places changes, not just because of my own mindset, but because in each place that God allows me to enter in, I'm able to serve a different purpose. And that is what, being about whose will versus, how do I define work? Is it about what the work is or whose work I'm doing? That's really where that has changed for me personally, and where I encourage you to think about I encourage you to think about where you're thinking through this as well. And so God has given you and me the unique skills and abilities that I have, and has designed me for a purpose, already knowing every place that I would occupy. So God knew you were going to occupy that job at this time and that job on the other way, but we have the opportunity to acknowledge what we are there for in that moment. And so, I think understanding that and really taking that in, I feel so compelled sometimes to conform to the world, what they want, right? What that job looks like or what that role should look like, instead of allowing God to transform me and all the places He gives me the opportunity to be in. And so when I think about Romans 12:2, I'm going to share from the Amplified version because I just really appreciate the text. But, it says, and do not be conformed to this world, so any longer with its superficial values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually by the renewing of your mind, focusing on godly values and ethical attitudes, so that you may prove for yourself what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect in His plan and purpose for you. And so oftentimes I don't apply this thought process to my job. But when I think about unlocking the power within you, especially as it comes to your business, your On the job, just think about, like, if we are more spiritually mature and we look at it through the lens of the workplaces we have the opportunity to occupy, if we think about what is the will of God in the place that I am, and I think about in His plan and purpose for you, and we take that seriously and we apply it not to just some parts of our life, but to all parts of our life, what a different world and workplace we would have, and how many more people would we have the opportunity to impact. And so I wanted to share with you three keys that I believe help to unlock the power within. And so the first key is pray over the places, people, and spaces that God has attached to you. Watch things change. So I was having a really challenging time in one of the workplaces that I have the opportunity to be in. And over the summertime, I began to pray every single day over the workplace. And I will tell you, I can't even explain the changes I saw in the people that I work with, in the way that people were treating each other, in the way that I showed up differently, all because I moved them to the forefront of my prayer life. And so if you have the opportunity to think about what would change if you were lifting prayers for people who maybe no one in their life is praying for, maybe there's no one in the company that you're in that knows Christ, but you could be, there to pray on their behalf and watch things move. Because I promise you that unlocks a power within you, because God is unlocking the potential in other people through your light and your obedience. The next key is recognize when you step into any room, you always carry your purpose if you are willing to unlock your power through Him. So no matter what room you are going into, just even acknowledging that, recognizing that when you step into that room, when you step into that meeting, when you step into that conversation, thinking about the impact that you can make if you are following what God's will is and you ask Him for that. Um, and and think about what potential for kingdom work could be accomplished. So whether it's in your own business, and so often we think about it, BWIN, is that we don't want to take Christ out of our business. Our business is always God's business. We are always in the business of God's work, and so we don't need to separate Him from anything, because we want to be on track with what He wants. It's His business. Every business we do, whether you are in HR, whether you are in the beauty profession, whether you are doing construction, it doesn't matter what job you're in, you have the opportunity to do God's business. And so the final key is how. How do you do this? It's by coming into agreement with God. So one time God told me, Aisha, it's about my will. Ask me for my will. And as you think about that verse in Romans 12:2, God says, so that you may prove for yourself what the will of God is. And so just understanding what is His will and come into agreement. Oftentimes it's easy to get swept up into our own agendas. How do we come into agreement with what God would like for us personally to do in whatever space we're in? And so, if we allow God to work through us, I just want you to imagine what is possible if we make all of our business God's business, and we stop putting limits on our power because of positions, because of titles, because of even the place you might be in your career or your life right now. That's the power to unlock. It's unlocking the opportunity to know that no matter where you are right now, there is something God has on the inside of you, and He is working. He can work on you, and I'm a true testament to this. God can be working on you and through you all at the same time. It is not because of our worthiness that He works on us. It's because He is worthy, not because of our worthiness. It is about our ability to say yes. It is about our ability to be willing so that He can turn that key. Because one thing about God is that God is so good and He is extremely respectful. So He's not going to, knock down your door if you don't knock on it, if you don't have the willingness to open the door, right? If you aren't willing to be the vessel, he's not going to keep telling you to do it. He's going to be respectful. And when you allow Him, then the gates of heaven open, that He will just continue to flow through you and you get to receive that. And I just think it's so important to remember that as long as we are tied to doing his business, God's business, we're tied to making sure that the power we have is not because of the company we work for or because of what we get paid. Our power comes from the one and only true Jesus Christ. There's such a different outlook. There's such a different definition of work. There's such a different way in which we can show up for him if we change our mindset around that. And so it's time. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to go to work for God, and he will work on you. But we have to say yes. We have to get out there. We have to say, God, I'm ready to unlock the power within me by trusting your will, by giving you the space to work, by being grateful for the places you allow me to occupy, and giving him the time to sow into you so that you can sow into the places he's planted you. And so I just think about how your environment will begin to change, not just for you, but for those who have never encountered God the way you have. We are so fortunate for those of us who know the Lord, and there are so many people who still have the opportunity to know Jesus in a more intimate way, in a way that allows them to experience transformation from the inside out. And so I'm just so grateful to have incredible women in my life who have sown into me, who remind me when I get off track, when I start to conform to the world about what I should do or how it should look like or what should or should not happen, that they continue to remind me that what I should be doing is going to God. What I should be doing is spending time with him so that I can get clear on his strategies and not sitting, spinning my wheels, trying to do something else. And even if people at your workplace or in your life are telling you, that's never going to work, or you can't do this, I've certainly been there myself. Their opinion doesn't change what God has provided for me, that he has planned for me. They don't need to know the story. Who I need to get that from is from him. And so, some things to really think about, and I want to encourage you to reflect on is, who are you going to work for? When you wake up in the morning, when you go to do work, who are you doing the work for? Ask God to reveal his will for you in each of the spaces you have the opportunity to be a part of. And just encourage you again to remember that power doesn't come from position in the outside world. It comes from allowing God to change you from the inside out, from allowing him to take the position for you and you just be available. Let him drive. Ours is about availability. And so I am just really grateful for a community like BWIN, where our goal and our mission, right, is to bring women together so that we can have these kinds of conversations, so that where you may not be able to talk about who you're doing and being and all that Christ has created you to be on your job or in your business, maybe you aren't in those situations, you can be that here. You can have the opportunity to talk about those struggles of what it feels like to be conflicted, or what it feels like to be searching and seeking. But together, we're going to seek God. We're going to do God's work in our businesses. And we want to bring women together who are interested in doing that. And so we will continue to do these Winning Wednesday sessions for the duration of March. And our goal is really just to sow into you, to share an encouraging word, to bring women who have had experiences, whether that's building better business relationships that you heard from Liz Everett, or our upcoming speaker, Lena Wilson, who's going to be talking to you about promotion next week. We really just want to foster a community where we can have incredible moments of you getting your cup filled when you fill so many other cups, for you to have the opportunity to commune with other women in a sisterhood who care about you, where you can be yourself and ask great questions, and where you can continue to make sure that the businesses that you have the opportunity to be a part of or to lead are really about God's business. And so if this message resonates with you, we just ask that, share with a friend, invite them over to the BWIN Facebook group. And we encourage you to go ahead and head over to our website, which is bwininc.com. Again, BWININC.com, and click on our page to learn more about the BWIN mission. But also, If you're interested in becoming a member, our membership doors will be opening very soon. And so if you think this might be a community you'd like to be a part of, please head over to the website and you can sign up and you'll get the information about next steps to join our incredible community. And so I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in, whether that was live or on the replay. I'm so excited and grateful for you to join here. And again, thank you for your time, and we are excited to continue to grow this community together. Have an incredible night. Bye-bye.